What if I told you your words were never yours? That every phrase you speak is part of a system designed long before you were born? A system built to shape your thoughts, limit your potential, and control your reality. There's a reason spelling means casting spells. A reason grammar comes from grimoire. A reason cursive means curse. And there's a reason the one subject that exposed all of this vanished from schools in 1946. Because once you understand the code behind your own language, you'll realize the cage was never physical. It was linguistic. And the moment you see the trap, the spell breaks, instantly. But that's exactly why they never wanted you to learn this. Because a mind that can decode its own language is a mind that can no longer be controlled. And that is what they fear most.
Most people go their entire lives believing language is harmless. Just sound waves, just communication, just a tool. But the truth is far darker, far older, and far more deliberate than anyone ever told you. Language is not passive. It is not neutral. It is the invisible operating system of your reality. And from the moment you were born, you inherited a linguistic program you never consented to. One designed to shape how you think, what you notice, what you fear, what you believe is possible, and most of all, who you believe you are allowed to be. Every word you speak is a spell, and deep down you already know this. It's why they call it spelling. It's why the structure of language is called grammar, rooted in the word grimoire, a book of magic. It's why flowing handwriting is called cursive, because it creates curses, patterns of energetic influence embedded into form. These aren't coincidences. These are remnants of a time when language was openly understood as reality-shaping technology, when words were treated the same way shamans treated symbols or priests treated sacred chants. But somewhere along the line, someone decided you shouldn't know any of this. To understand how the spell works, you have to know the moment it was hidden. In 1946, something vanished from schools across the world. Not prayer, not discipline, etymology. The study of the true origins of words, their roots, their hidden meanings, their ancient functions. Before 1946, decoding words was standard education. Students learned to understand what a word really meant at its core, not what someone said it meant. After 1946, everything shifted. Etymology disappeared almost overnight, replaced by memorization, standardized testing, and blind acceptance of surface definitions. You're told a word means one thing, you repeat it, and you never question what you've actually agreed to. And that was the point. Because once you learn the origins of even a handful of your everyday words, a chill runs through you. You start seeing the cage, buried in plain sight. Mortgage means death pledge. Government means mind control. Understand means to stand beneath. Pharmacy comes from pharmakeia, meaning sorcery. These aren't metaphors. These are their literal roots. Language is the matrix, and nobody told you how it works. But here's the part that really matters. Once you start decoding the hidden architecture of words, their spells, their commands, their frequency, you can never go back to speaking unconsciously again. Because you begin to realize something earth-shattering. Your entire life has been shaped by phrases you never examined, agreements you never questioned, and spells you didn't know you were casting. And now that you can see the code, it's time to decode the spells you've unknowingly been obeying. Decode the keywords. How etymology reveals hidden commands. Now that the veil is lifted, you can finally begin to see what's been hiding in plain sight. Language is a system of coded commands, and every command is embedded into the roots of the words you repeat every single day. This is where reality creation stops being mystical or metaphorical and becomes mechanical. Because the moment you decode these root meanings, you start to understand why your life has unfolded the way it has, and why certain struggles felt like they were happening to you, not through you. You were obeying spells you didn't know you were casting. Let's begin with the linguistic trinity that reveals everything: spelling, grammar, cursive. When you spell a word, you're literally spelling, assembling a formula with vibrational meaning. Grammar comes directly from grimoire, a book of magic, implying language structures were originally recognized as spell structures. And cursive, its root means to curse, to bind, to influence, to direct. These aren't poetic interpretations. These are documented linguistic origins. And when children learn to write in cursive, they're learning to replicate vibrational shapes that encode meaning, rhythm, and intention. But it gets far more disturbing and far more empowering when you decode everyday words you've been using without question. A mortgage is not simply a home loan, it literally means death pledge, the pledging of your life force over time. Government combines govern meaning control and ment meaning mind. Mind control, not as conspiracy, but as etymological fact. When you say you understand, you are declaring yourself under, beneath, in a position of submission. And when you walk into a pharmacy, you are entering a place rooted in pharmakeia, ancient sorcery and potion making. The moment you hear these roots, you feel something shift inside you, not fear, but recognition. Because you realize your language has been architected to limit you, to shrink you, to make you agree to psychological and energetic contracts without awareness or consent. And that is exactly why etymology was removed from mainstream education. A population that knows the roots of words cannot be manipulated by them. A population that can decode language cannot be controlled through language. But the most important piece is this: these commands don't just shape culture, they shape you, your perception, your identity, your expectations, your self-image. Cognitive scientist Lera Boroditsky's research proves that language influences how people perceive time, causality, agency, and responsibility. Speakers of different languages literally perceive events differently based on linguistic structure. In simple terms, your language doesn't just describe your reality, it filters and edits your reality before you even experience it. So now, with these decoded roots, the question becomes chillingly obvious. If words carry hidden commands, what happens when these commands target your identity, your nervous system, and your sense of possibility? To understand that, we have to bridge the gap between mystical spellcasting and hard science. And that begins with your biology. From just words to bioelectric commands. The science bridge. Up to this point, everything might feel ancient, mystical, symbolic. But now we cross a line where the mystical and the scientific meet, merge, and become indistinguishable. This is the bridge they never wanted you to see. Because once you understand how words interact with your biology, not metaphorically but physiologically, you stop treating language like decoration and start treating it like a control panel. This is where spellcasting becomes science. Let's begin with something undeniable. The way you talk to yourself changes your body's performance under pressure. This isn't self-help hype, it's been measured. In a landmark 2013 psychological study, researchers David Creswell and colleagues found that when stressed individuals practiced self-affirmations, simple statements like, "I am grounded," "I am capable," "I am prepared," their problem-solving abilities dramatically improved, even under intense cognitive strain. Their brains literally shifted into a more resilient state. Their nervous systems became more adaptive. Their performance rose, not because circumstances changed, but because the language they used changed. Your body is listening to your words more closely than anyone else ever will. Now widen the lens. Linguistic relativity research shows that language shapes perception in ways that once seemed impossible. In Boroditsky's experiments, speakers of different languages perceived direction, time, agency, and even responsibility differently depending on the words and grammar available to them. In some languages, time flows left to right. In others, east to west. In some, a broken vase broke itself. In others, he broke the vase, regardless of intent. Those differences aren't philosophical. They change memory, judgment, and behavior. Think about that. The structure of your language literally dictates how your mind models reality. But let's go deeper into the layer where water, sound, and intention intersect. Dean Radin's double-blind studies, exploring whether human intention can influence water crystal formation, produced intriguing, though debated, results. And while mainstream science debates Masaru Emoto's water crystal photography, his work still resonates because it symbolizes a profound truth. Water, structured, sensitive, life-bearing, responds to vibrational patterns. And you are roughly 70% water, held in dynamic liquid crystal form. You are a resonant being shaped by sound. Words aren't vibrations metaphorically. They are vibrations literally. Every sentence you speak alters electrical impulses in your brain, hormonal cascades in your endocrine system, and electromagnetic patterns in your heart's field. Think of your body as a biological cymatic instrument. Speak anger, and your internal geometry scrambles. Speak coherence, and your cells align. Speak limitation, and your biology contracts. Speak possibility, and your system expands. You're not describing your life with words, you're instructing your biology. Every phrase is an electrochemical command. And once you understand that, the next step becomes unavoidable. Your words don't just influence your body, they affect the field around you. Fields of consciousness. From your heart to the global mind. If your words can influence your biology, then the next question becomes unavoidable. Do they also influence the world around you? And this is where things shift from personal to planetary, because your consciousness doesn't end at the edge of your skin. You're not a closed system. You're a broadcasting instrument, constantly sending information into the field and constantly receiving it. And your words are the carrier waves. Let's start with the part of your body they never taught you about in school, the electromagnetic field of the heart. The Heart Math Institute has demonstrated for decades that your heart produces the strongest rhythmic electromagnetic field in your body. It radiates outward in all directions, forming a coherent bubble of information that can be measured several feet around you. This field changes with your emotions, your focus, and yes, your words. When you speak, your voice isn't just moving air, it's charging the electromagnetic environment around you with the frequency of your intention. You've felt this before without realizing it. You walk into a room where someone was just arguing, and the air feels heavy. You sit next to someone who is genuinely joyful, and suddenly your body relaxes. You pick up tension or ease without a single word being said. That detection is not emotional intuition alone. It's your nervous system reading shifts in electromagnetic coherence. But this field extends even further, far beyond personal interaction. Look at the Global Consciousness Project, a decades-long experiment involving random number generators placed all around the world. These machines should produce pure randomness. Yet during moments of collective emotional intensity, 9/11, major natural disasters, global celebrations, these devices begin to behave in non-random ways, as if the collective human mind is pressing into physical reality. Patterns emerge where chaos should exist. The implication isn't that consciousness overrides physics, but that consciousness interacts with it, shaping probability. Your intention, your emotional state, and yes, your words, participate in the same field. You are part of a global web of meaning, coherence, and influence. And this isn't mystical, it's measurable. Films like Arrival hint at this truth through metaphor. Learn a new language, and your perception of time changes. The Matrix poses a deeper question. What happens when you finally recognize the code beneath your reality? And coherence whispers the possibility that small shifts in awareness ripple out into vastly different timelines. You are not isolated. You are not silent. You are not powerless. When your words alter your field, they alter your interactions, your opportunities, your relationships, and the probabilities that unfold around you. You are a tuning fork inside a larger symphony. But the most astonishing part is still ahead, the quantum level, where observation collapses possibility into form, and your words become the measurement device. Quantum mechanics. Why your declarations collapse possibilities. This is the moment where ancient wisdom and modern physics finally shake hands. Everything up to now, etymology, biology, electromagnetic fields, has been pointing toward one deeper truth. Your words don't just influence your reality, they select your reality. And if that sounds like a wild claim, you've already seen the scientific foundation for it without realizing it. Let's go to the experiment that broke physics, the double-slit experiment. Scientists fired particles like electrons or photons at a screen with two slits. When they observed which slit the particle traveled through, the particle behaved like a tiny solid object, choosing one slit or the other. Two slits, two lines on the detection screen. But when they removed the act of observation, no measurement, no awareness, the particles stopped behaving like particles at all. They spread into waves, waves of possibility that passed through both slits simultaneously. And on the screen behind them, instead of two neat lines, there was a shimmering interference pattern, ripples, waves, overlapping futures. Same particles, same setup. The only difference was conscious observation. Observation collapsed the wave of infinite possibilities into one concrete outcome. Think about what that means. The universe does not exist in a fixed state. It exists as potential, a shimmering cloud of possible realities, until consciousness interacts with it, until an observer chooses, until attention crystallizes probability into one single path. Now bring this home to your life. Thoughts are often vague, drifting, slippery. But words? Words are concentrated observation. Their thought crystallized into form. When you speak, you're not narrating what already exists. You're collapsing possibility into reality. You're performing a measurement. When you say, "I am broke," you're not stating a fact. You're collapsing the field of infinite financial possibilities into a single constrained one. You're reinforcing a timeline. You're selecting a version of you. You are performing the same act as the quantum observer, but with your identity. When you say, "I am alone," you collapse into the timeline where connection cannot reach you. When you say, "I am unlucky," you collapse into the events that validate that claim. When you say, "I am stuck," you freeze the wave function of your life. Most people are not unlucky. They are unintentional observers constantly collapsing reality into the version they fear. And here's the revelation that changes everything. The quantum field doesn't respond to hope, wish, or future tense. It responds to now. It responds to the absolute declaration of observation. I am. That's why manifestation isn't begging the universe or daydreaming a better life. It's the quantum skill of choosing a reality through decisive verbal observation. Your words don't describe your world. They determine which version of the world you experience. And to understand the true power of that mechanism, you have to understand the most potent phrase in human language, the root command that shapes worlds. I am. I am as the divine root command. There is a reason every spiritual tradition, every mystical text, and every esoteric school, no matter how far apart in time or geography, warns human beings to be careful with the words, I am. These two syllables are not descriptions, they are declarations, identity-level commands, reality-setting parameters. And once you understand what I am actually does, you'll never use it casually again. In the Hebrew Bible, when Moses asks the divine for its name, the answer is not a title, not a symbol, not a role. It is a state of being. I am that I am. It's the foundational pattern of existence, consciousness in its purest expression. Not what it will be, not what it was, what it is. The name of God is a grammatical structure. And then, in one of the most overlooked yet revolutionary statements in spiritual history, the text declares that humans are made in the image of this consciousness. Not physically, linguistically, energetically, creatively. Which means the creative force hidden in the phrase I am runs through you too. Not as metaphor, but as mechanism. Every time you say I am, you invoke the same reality-defining formula. You collapse probability into identity. You give the quantum field its instruction set. You set the emotional tone of your nervous system. You sculpt your self-concept in real time. And yet, look at how most people use the most powerful phrase in existence. I am tired. I am stressed. I am broke. I am anxious. I am not enough. I am unlucky. I am a mess. These aren't descriptions, they're spells, identity-level programs, energetic contracts, biological instructions. Psychological research backs this up in a very grounded way. In Creswell's self-affirmation studies, participants who affirmed core values, essentially using empowered I am statements, showed measurable improvements in stress resilience and problem solving. Their cognitive performance didn't improve because life got easier. It improved because their identity state shifted. Their biology followed their language. This is why affirmations often fail when people approach them like cute slogans rather than identity declarations. I am trying is not an identity. I want to be is not a command. One day I will be is not observation. It's postponement. The quantum field does not respond to hesitation. It responds to presence, to choice, to now. I am becoming healthier begins collapsing the timeline of healing. I am capable begins collapsing the timeline of confidence. I am abundant begins collapsing the timeline of opportunity. You aren't speaking these things to convince the universe. You're speaking them to align your observer state with the reality you choose. I am is not a sentence. It is the switchboard, the source code, the divine command line. And once you master it, you stop speaking as a victim of circumstances and begin speaking as the architect of them. Victim language versus creator language. Phrase by phrase transmutation. At this point, you've seen how language shapes biology, identity, perception, and even probability. But now we enter the part that changes your everyday life the fastest. The moment you recognize that every sentence you speak positions you in one of two realities. You're either speaking as a victim, unconsciously reinforcing powerlessness, or as a creator, consciously shaping your world. And you make that choice dozens of times a day without realizing it. Most people don't communicate. They confess their programming. They speak from inherited scripts, cultural conditioning, generational trauma, and linguistic habits they never questioned. And because they don't question them, they unknowingly cast the same spells over their lives again and again. Victim language always has one thing in common. It frames you as the passive object of external forces. Things happen to you. You have no agency. You're reacting, defending, explaining, surviving. Victim language is built from words like can't, have to, need, always, never, should, try. These sound harmless, but they create a frequency pattern of constraint. They collapse reality into powerlessness by assumption. I can't afford it. I'm so stressed. I have to deal with this. I never get a break. I'm trying to fix my life. I always mess things up. Without realizing it, you lock yourself into identities where you are small, limited, unlucky, overwhelmed. The subconscious hears these phrases as commands, not observations. Your nervous system contracts. Your electromagnetic field weakens. You begin scanning your environment for evidence that matches the spell you just cast. Now compare that with creator language, which rests on one core principle. You are the active agent of your experience. Nothing happens to you. You're participating, choosing, responding creatively, shaping outcomes. Creator language uses words like I choose, I am, I'm discovering, I'm learning, I'm becoming, I'm ready to, I allow, I welcome, I choose to invest my energy differently. I'm processing intense energy right now. I choose to honor my commitments. I'm learning new patterns. I'm becoming healthier every day. I'm discovering how to navigate this chapter. I'm ready for more financial flow. I allow support to reach me. Notice how different those feel in your body. One contracts you, one expands you, one drains power, one restores it. This isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about refusing to speak as though you are powerless within it. Victim language keeps you trapped in old timelines. Creator language shifts you into higher possibilities instantly because it repositions you as the observer, the one who collapses the wave function. And this is especially crucial for the people drawn to this work. The philosophical seeker, the awakening practitioner, the chosen one archetype. These identities require a different level of linguistic discipline. You can't speak like the collective consciousness and expect to rise above it. You cannot ascend using the vocabulary of someone who believes they are trapped. The moment you stop using victim language, you stop living a victim's life. And the moment you begin speaking creator language, the universe can finally respond to you as a creator. Now it's time to operationalize this shift with exact, structured practices that rewire your speech and your reality from the inside out. Practice 1 and 2. 7-day vocabulary. Detox plus I am reconstruction. Now that you understand the mechanics behind victim language and creator language, it's time to convert all of this insight into actual transformation. Awareness is the spark, but practice is the rewiring. These next 7 days will feel like stepping out of an invisible cage you didn't know you were living in. Because the truth is, your programming doesn't sit in your beliefs. It sits in your vocabulary. Change your words, and your subconscious has no choice but to change its identity. The first practice is the 7-day vocabulary detox, and it works because it interrupts your linguistic autopilot. Most people speak without hearing themselves. But once you begin tracking your vocabulary, you start seeing how often you reforged your own shackles. This detox forces you to stop mid-sentence, recognize the spell, and choose a new one. For days 1 and 2, your job is simple. Eliminate can't and try. I can't is a lie wrapped in helplessness. I'm trying is disguised failure. Replace them with I choose or I'm doing, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. Your nervous system needs new grooves. Days 3 and 4 eliminate have to and need to. These phrases imply external control, obligation, and lack. They hijack your agency. Replace them with I choose to and I'm ready to. Feel the shift. Your spine straightens, your breathing opens, and your energy moves from pressure to permission. Days 5 and 6 eliminate always and never whenever they frame limitation. These absolute words lock you into false permanence. Replace them with I'm learning, I'm changing, or I'm developing new patterns. You break the illusion of fate. And day 7, this one is the most subtle and powerful. Eliminate but. But is a linguistic eraser. Everything before it gets cancelled. Replace it with and watch your internal contradictions harmonize instead of collapse. The second practice moves deeper. The I am reconstruction. This is where you reclaim your identity by redesigning your command sentences at the root. Start by writing down the I am statements you actually use, not the ones you wish you used, the real ones, the ones that slip out on tired days, frustrated days, quiet days. I am lazy. I am lost. I am anxious. I am broken. These are identity spells, and your subconscious obeys them without argument. Once you have the list, rewrite each one into a power declaration, not the opposite, but the truth beneath the distortion. I am disciplined and energized. I am learning my direction. I am calm in my power. I am whole and becoming stronger. Then comes the ritual. For 21 days, morning and night, you stand in front of a mirror and speak these new declarations out loud while looking directly into your own eyes. It will feel fake at first. That's normal. You're not lying. You're remembering. With each repetition, neural pathways shift. Emotional patterns loosen. Identity reorganizes. Speak these declarations long enough, and your reality will be forced to rearrange around them. And now that your words are changing, the next step is to set the tone for your entire day before the world speaks into you. Practice 3 and 4, morning reality decree plus etymology investigation. Now that you've begun clearing out the contaminated language and rebuilding your identity from the inside, you're ready for one of the most life-altering upgrades in this entire system, choosing your frequency before the world chooses it for you. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their consciousness to notifications, messages, headlines, and the emotional residue of yesterday. They start their day reacting, not creating. But a sovereign creator sets the field first, and the world responds accordingly. That's the purpose of the morning reality decree. This practice is simple, but it is not small. It is the daily ritual that tunes your electromagnetic field, primes your subconscious, aligns your attention, and collapses your chosen probabilities before anything else can interfere. And it only takes 30 to 60 seconds. Here's the rule. Before you touch your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you let the outside world broadcast into your field, you stand, breathe deeply, and speak a present tense decree that establishes your identity, your intention, and your frequency for the day. It must begin with I am. It must be declarative, and it must be spoken out loud. Something like, I am centered, sovereign, and clear. I create opportunities and connections that elevate my path. I attract people, resources, and experiences aligned with my highest expression. I embody clarity, confidence, and grounded power. This is who I am. This is what I do. You can adapt it, personalize it, sharpen it, but it must be now. The quantum field only responds to the present moment. Wishes don't tune your frequency. Declarations do. Say this consistently for a month, and watch how differently people treat you, how differently you make decisions, and how much synchronicity begins showing up. The world reorganizes in response to your chosen identity. But to maintain sovereignty, you need more than affirmation. You need to learn how to decode the spells hidden inside your own language. That's where the etymology investigation comes in. Once a week, choose 5 words you use constantly: money, job, success, health, relationship, family, freedom, purpose. Look up the oldest roots of each word. Study where they came from, what they originally meant, and how their meanings shifted. You will be stunned. Words that seem harmless often carry disempowering frequencies at their core, like worry, which comes from a root meaning to choke or strangle. Every time you say, I'm worried, you are quite literally encoding constriction into your energy field. When you discover a word that carries a frequency misaligned with the identity you're building, replace it. Instead of, I'm worried, say, I'm considering options, or I'm focused on solving this, instead of, I'm overwhelmed. Say, I'm reorganizing my energy. Precision of language leads to precision of reality. This investigation is the step most people skip, but it's the one that permanently breaks unconscious programming. When you understand the true roots of your words, you stop blindly inheriting meanings and begin choosing the reality each word creates. And now that you've taken control of your internal language, it's time to protect your field from the external spells constantly being cast at you. Practice 5 and 6. Linguistic Shield plus Gratitude Rewire. By now you've begun speaking differently, choosing differently, and declaring differently. But there is one more layer of linguistic sovereignty that most people never master. Protecting your field from the words you didn't choose. Because as powerful as your own declarations are, you're constantly surrounded by language that isn't yours. Fear-based media, chaotic conversations, subtle negativity, emotional projections, cultural slogans, and low-frequency commands repeated so often they start to feel like truth. If you don't protect your field, the world will program it for you. That's where the linguistic shield comes into play. The linguistic shield is simple, subtle, and unbelievably effective. It trains your subconscious to reject linguistic programming automatically, the same way your immune system rejects foreign invaders. It begins in the morning. Before you let the world speak into you, declare, "I am sovereign in my perception. No frequency enters my field without my consent. I choose what I believe." Say it with clarity, not as superstition. This is boundary setting for the electromagnetic field your heart generates. Throughout the day, the shield becomes a quiet internal practice. When you hear fear-based phrases, repetitive narratives, attention-hijacking headlines, or subtle linguistic manipulation, internally say, "I do not accept this spell. I return this frequency to sender." You don't argue with the information. You don't absorb it. You simply decline the spell. You maintain sovereignty over your perception instead of allowing external voices to shape it. And at night, right before sleep, when your subconscious becomes most impressionable, you perform the release. I clear all words not aligned with my truth. I release all frequencies that are not mine. I reclaim my clarity and sovereignty now. This resets your field so you don't carry the day's linguistic debris into the next morning. You fall asleep in coherence, not chaos. But protection alone isn't enough. You also need to rewire your subconscious toward coherence, joy, and expansion. That's where gratitude rewire comes in, though in truth, this is not traditional gratitude at all. Most gratitude practices are mental checklists. This one is somatic, emotional, and frequency-based. Each night, choose 3 moments from your day. Not achievements, not dramatic events, but micro-moments that made you feel alive. Sunlight on your skin, a sentence you spoke with confidence, a quiet laugh, a moment of clarity, a sudden insight. Then close your eyes and relive each moment for 20 to 30 seconds. Feel it again. Let the body recreate the internal chemistry, the electromagnetic coherence, the emotional signature. Your subconscious cannot tell the difference between memory and present experience. When you relive these moments, you encode your field with coherence before sleep. You teach your nervous system, this is the state we seek. This is the pattern we repeat. This is the frequency we embody. Over time, your mind begins scanning for more positive micro-moments automatically. Your emotional baseline rises. Your field becomes more stable. You begin waking up with natural optimism, natural clarity, natural confidence. Not forced, not fake, but resonant. Protection plus reconditioning. Shield plus rewire. This is how you ensure your field becomes unhackable and your language becomes a conscious instrument of creation. Now you're ready to apply everything. You've learned to the most important areas of your life: money, health, relationships, and your identity as a sovereign creator. Applying the code: money, health, relationships, and power. Now that the foundation is built, detoxed language, reconstructed identity, daily decree, etymology awareness, and an active linguistic shield, you're ready to apply this power directly into the places where most people feel the deepest struggle: money, health, relationships, and the sense of personal purpose. This is where the abstract becomes practical, where frequency becomes form, and where your new language begins bending the trajectory of your life in real time. Let's start with money, because financial language is one of the most contaminated linguistic fields in modern culture. Think about the words people use constantly: debt, bills, mortgage, struggle, need, expensive. Each one carries a frequency of burden and contraction. And remember the etymology you learned earlier. Mortgage literally means death pledge. When you say, "I need more money," your subconscious hears lack, scarcity, and emergency. The body contracts. The field constricts. You collapse the timeline of limitation. Shift the language and the entire system reorganizes. Instead of, "I can't afford it," say, "I'm choosing to invest differently right now." Instead of, "I need money," say, "I'm ready for financial flow." Instead of, "I'm terrible with money," declare, "I am a wise steward of resources and I'm learning to multiply value." These shifts aren't delusions. They're frequency adjustments. They break the spell of scarcity and place you back into the creator position. Now apply the same awareness to health. Most people use their words to curse their own bodies without even noticing. "I'm sick. I'm tired. I'm so stressed. My back is killing me." These aren't descriptions, they're biological instructions. Your cells hear you. Your water structure responds. Your endocrine system adjusts. Saying, "I am sick," cements illness into identity. Saying, "I am healing," "I'm recalibrating," or "my body is reorganizing into strength," gives your system permission to move toward coherence. Next, let's move into relationships. Here, language forms the emotional boundary between connection and self-erasure. The victim phrases most people use, "No one understands me," "I'm always alone," "I never meet the right people," aren't reflections of reality. They are reality-shaping declarations that close doors before life can open them. Replace them with creator phrases. "I'm calling in people who resonate with my frequency." "I'm learning to hold relationships with clarity." "I'm ready for aligned connection." Suddenly, you stop chasing the wrong people and start attracting the right ones effortlessly. And finally, we arrive at power, your identity, your purpose, your awakening. This is where the chosen one archetype becomes active. Not because you're superior, but because you're aware. You see what most people don't. Language is the steering wheel of consciousness. When you speak as a victim, you live a victim's fate. When you speak as a creator, you walk a creator's timeline. And when you speak as someone awakening to their true nature, life begins matching that identity. Say it to yourself, "I am not waiting for power, I am remembering it. I am not finding purpose, I am embodying it. I am not hoping for reality to change. I am commanding it with the words I choose." You've learned the mechanics. You've practiced the rewiring. You've applied it to your life. Now it's time to integrate everything into the deepest level of sovereignty and end the era of unconscious spellcasting forever. Sovereignty and the end of mind control. You've traveled through the architecture of language, biology, consciousness, and quantum mechanics. You've unraveled the hidden spells inside everyday words, reclaimed the power of "I am," rewired your identity, and learned to cast and cancel linguistic frequency with precision. Now comes the final integration, the moment where everything fuses into a single operating system. Linguistic sovereignty. This is the point where you stop being shaped by language and begin shaping reality through language. Integration begins with recognition. You are not broken. You were programmed. You were taught to speak in limitation, to collapse into low-frequency identities, to narrate your life from the position of a powerless observer. You internalized phrases that were never yours to begin with. Phrases inherited from family, culture, media, trauma, and systems engineered to keep you predictable. But every sentence you have spoken up to this point was simply a reflection of one thing: unconscious agreement. Now the agreements break, because once you understand that words are spells, that every phrase is a contract, that every declaration encodes vibration into your field, you can no longer speak unconsciously. You can no longer surrender your perception to low-frequency narratives. You can no longer let language be something that just happens to you. From here forward, every conversation becomes a conscious ritual. Every sentence becomes a choice. Every word becomes an act of creation. This is the end of linguistic mind control. Not through rebellion, but through awareness. When you hear a headline engineered to trigger fear, you recognize the spell and decline it. When someone projects limitation onto you, you don't absorb it. You return it. When old patterns rise up, I can't. I'm stuck. I'm not enough. You intercept them and transmute them in real time. Your subconscious begins to reorganize around possibility instead of threat. Remember the pillars you've built. You decoded your vocabulary. You resurrected etymology. You rebuilt your identity with I am. You shifted from victim phrases to creator commands. You established a morning decree to tune your field. You investigated the true roots of your language. You built a shield against external programming. You rewired your emotional baseline through gratitude re-experiencing. You applied the code to your money, health, relationships, and purpose. Now you unify all of it into one truth. You are the author of the reality you walk through, not metaphorically, mechanically. Frequency is not poetic, it is structural. You are a light mind, a human human, consciousness expressing through form. A person, sound moving through matter. A bioelectric field that responds to every thought and crystallizes around every word. You are the observer who collapses the quantum wave into the timeline you choose. Your language is your wand, your code, your steering wheel. So speak with intention. Speak with precision. Speak with awareness. Speak life, power, sovereignty, abundance, clarity, and truth. Let every word be chosen. Let nothing be accidental. And watch how reality bends, shifts, and reorganizes itself around the frequency you command. The spell is broken. The code is revealed. And you, finally, are free to speak your world into existence.